You've set up payroll in Xero. You've added your employee, connected your Xero to ATO to be able to do single touch payroll. Now you're looking at the screen thinking, okay, how do I actually run a pay run? That's exactly what we are covering today. This is going to be a very straightforward pay run. In practice, pay runs can become much more complex, but the foundation we are building here is the same regardless of complexity. One thing I wanted to note up front, I'm based in Australia, so I'm using the Australian version of Xero and the Australian pay run terms. The actual process is similar across different countries in Xero, but the legislative requirements, the taxation, the superannuation, reporting are specific to wherever you are. So if you're watching from elsewhere, keep that in mind as we go. Now let's get started. Payroll sits under the payroll menu in Xero. Before we jump into the pay run itself, let's take a moment to look at the payroll overview. Think of this screen as your payroll dashboard. Here you can see a summary of total pay run amount for the last month and also year to date. This is useful for keeping a sense of the overall picture, not just individual pay runs. You'll also see when your next pay run is due based on your pay calendar. Because this is our very first pay run, this area is currently empty. Once you have run a few pay cycles, you will see them listed here. And if you're using XeroMe, where employees can submit their own leave requests and timesheets, those will also appear here for approval. Leave and timesheets can be added either by a Xero user directly or by the employees themselves through the XeroMe app. You can create a new pay run, a new timesheet, or add a new employee directly using this green New Task button. Before you start any pay run, especially when you're doing your first pay run or a new employee was onboarded, I would strongly recommend checking the employee setup one more time. Review their pay template, confirm that the bank account details are correct, and make sure their superannuation fund and membership number is recorded correctly. Once everything looks right, we can continue. To start the pay run, you have two options. You can either use this new task button on payroll overview screen and select pay run, or navigate to the payroll menu and then select pay employees. In practice, most users use the second option, so that's what we'll do here. But I can assure you, both will take you to the same screen. You may see a message about opening balances. If you haven't used another payroll system in the current financial year and you're onboarding brand new employees, there's nothing to bring across, so you can ignore this. You add a new pay run by clicking here, then you need to select your pay period. If you have multiple pay calendars, for example, some employees are paid fortnightly and others monthly, you will see multiple options in the drop-down. You will also notice the option to create an unscheduled pay run. This is used for corrections and adjustments to previously filed pay runs and not for regular pay run processing. For now, we are running a standard fortnightly pay run. One thing to be aware of, Xero only allows one draft pay run per calendar at a time. So if there is already a draft sitting there from a previous session, you will need to either post it or delete it before you can create a new one for that pay calendar. Draft pay runs for different calendars can exist at the same time. Okay, once you created the pay run, you will see your employees listed and you can choose who to include in this pay run. Normally, you would want to include everyone. However, there could be instances where, let's say, a casual employee didn't work during this period, and then you can exclude them by unticking here rather than processing a nil pay run for them. In our example, we have only one employee, so inclusion is not really a question here. You have the option to add a standard payslip message for all employees in this pay run. This is optional and is typically only relevant when there is something specific to communicate, an unusual pay period, a bonus, or something similar. In most cases, we just leave it blank. Before posting anything, always review the pay run details. Click into the employee line to check the details. The pay is generated based on the pay template you set up for the employee. In this example, the employee is on an annual salary, so Xero calculates the fortnightly salary automatically. If you have employees on timesheet, the hours will be populated based on the timesheet, or you can add them manually. If there are additional type of earnings for this period, like overtime or bonus, this is where you can add them. You may also add specific deductions if that's relevant to your employee. Then the tax withheld is calculated automatically based on the earning items and the tax settings for that employee that was determined on the employee's tax tab when onboarding. Residency status, tax scale, whether they are claiming a tax-free threshold, whether they have a student loan, and so on. If those settings are correct, the PAYG withholding here is correct as well. If you want and it's your first pay run, you may cross-check this figure against the tax tables or a payroll calculator. Xero allows you to manually adjust the PAYG withheld amount by adding a manual adjustment here. However, I think you need to be very cautious. Manual adjustments should only be made if you fully understand the tax calculation and have a very specific reason for it. Changing this figure without understanding why is the kind of thing that can create huge tax problems along the way. Lastly, you can add reimbursement here for any travel, mileage, or other expenses. In this section, we can see the net wage we need to pay to the employee and also the payment details. In this particular case, the payment is split across multiple bank accounts. Then here are the leave accruals for this period based on how we set up the leave entitlements when adding the employee into Xero. We can also add a specific message to this particular employee if needed that would be shown only on their payslip. Once everything looks right, save your changes or select close if there was no changes made. Before you post the pay run, pay close attention to the payment date here in the upper right corner. Xero sets this automatically based on your payroll settings, but you can change it if needed. Just click on the blue payment date text and select the actual date when you'll be paying the wages. You know, the payment date does matter. It's the date the payroll journal is recorded in your accounts, wage expense appear in your profit and loss, and payables hit your balance sheet. It also drives STP reporting and superannuation obligations, especially with Payday Super that is coming into effect in Australia from 1st of July 2026. Now take a moment to confirm it before you post the pay run. You can also preview the payslips and the payroll reports even before posting. I recommend doing this at least on your first couple of pay runs. It lets you check the layout of the payslips, what the employees will see, sanity check the amounts, review the journal that will be entered. It's a very small step that can save an unscheduled pay run later. If something looks off, you can investigate and change the pay run as required. You also have the option to delete or reset a pay run. Resetting returns it to the original version based on the pay templates, a clean slate if you like. Once you're satisfied, post the pay run. Posting is the moment the payroll is recorded in your accounts. The wage and superannuation expense hit your profit and loss statement, and the liability are created in your balance sheet. I repeat this quite a lot, aren't I? After posting, there are 2 steps that must follow. First, posting a pay run doesn't mean that the employees are actually paid. You need to arrange payment to them. You can do this either by making the payment manually through your online banking platform or by downloading the ABA file and uploading it to your bank and process the payment. Once payment is made, you can send the payslips directly to employees using the Email Payslips button. This is especially useful if they are not set up on XeroMe. If they do have access to XeroMe, they can always view their payslips in the app, so no need to email the payslips. And the last step is filing the pay run to the ATO through Single Touch Payroll. This is compulsory in Australia. The STP filing must be submitted on or before the payment date, not after. So ideally, you do this on the same day when you make the payment. When filing, you will need to confirm you are authorized to do so. Once you submitted the file, the pay run will show as pending lodgement, and then its status updates to filed once ATO has accepted it. You need to see green file status next to each pay run. If you see a red label in the STP filing column, it means that the filing wasn't successful and it needs your attention. One important point here is that once a pay run is filed to the ATO, you cannot revert it back to draft. Any corrections after filing must be made through an unscheduled pay run. And that's it, my friends. Your first pay run is done.
And if you'd like to go deeper and truly understand the mechanics behind Xero Payroll, I'm currently building a complete payroll course where we unpack the ins and outs of Xero Payroll, from timesheets, awards, salary structures, super nuances, and real-world scenarios. You can join the waitlist via the link below.
And of course, if you found this video helpful, please give it a like. See you soon.